Most people lose before the battle even begins. Not because they're weak, not because they lack talent, but because they hand over their power every single morning, quietly, invisibly, to something they can't even see. It lives inside your chest at 2 a.m. when the room is dark and the world is quiet. It fills your head with catastrophes that haven't happened, conversations you haven't had, failures that exist only in your imagination. And by the time sunrise comes, you're already exhausted, not from life, but from a war you fought entirely alone, inside your own mind. Niccolo Machiavelli spent his life studying power, not the kind you inherit, the kind you build from the inside out. He watched kings fall, not because their armies were defeated, but because their minds collapsed first. He watched brilliant men die in mediocrity, because they could never silence the noise between their ears long enough to act. What he discovered wasn't a philosophy of cruelty, it was a philosophy of mastery. And in the next few minutes, you're going to learn 6 laws, not for domination over others, but for absolute dominion over yourself. Because the person who rules themselves needs to fear no one. Law 1. See the illusion, break the chain. Here's something nobody tells you about worry. It isn't protecting you, it's performing for you. It stages elaborate disasters in your mind, vivid, convincing, emotionally devastating, and charges you everything you have just to watch them. Your sleep, your confidence, your clarity, your energy, all drained, all for a show that never actually happens. Worry is not caution. Caution prepares you. Worry paralyzes you. Think about the last time you lost an entire night to anxiety. Your heart racing, mind spiraling, rehearsing 100 versions of tomorrow's failure. Then tomorrow arrived. And it was fine. Not perfect, maybe, but fine. And you realized you had already paid a steep price for something that didn't cost you anything in reality. Here's what Machiavelli understood that most people miss. Weakness isn't invisible. It broadcasts itself. It lives in a trembling voice, in distracted eyes, in the energy of someone who has already decided they're going to lose. People read that signal before you ever open your mouth. And in any arena, a boardroom, a negotiation, a relationship, that signal determines how you're treated. The ruler doesn't try to stop worrying, he does something more powerful. He watches himself worry. The moment you step outside the anxiety and observe it. My mind is writing a story right now. None of this has happened yet. You interrupt the entire mechanism. The spell breaks. You're no longer inside the nightmare. You're the one holding the pen. That single shift, from participant to observer, is where power begins. Law 1. Recognize the illusion. Don't obey it. Law 2. Silence is the sharpest weapon. There's a particular kind of strength that looks like nothing. No raised voice, no sharp comeback, no dramatic display, just stillness. And it terrifies people. Darwin once confessed something remarkable. Even knowing a thick pane of glass stood between him and a striking snake. His body still lurched backward every time the snake lunged. His intellect knew he was safe. His instincts ignored it entirely. That's the human condition. We are wired to react, and most of us spend our lives enslaved to that wiring. In the game of power, that enslavement is fatal. The moment you react impulsively, you've given your opponent something invaluable, information. You've revealed exactly what threatens you, what destabilizes you, what they can use against you. A snapped response in a meeting doesn't just lose an argument. It maps your vulnerabilities for the entire room to study. But silence? Silence is unreadable. Silence is unnerving. Silence makes the other person wonder what you know, what you're planning, what move they can't see coming. There's an old story of a merchant in a tense negotiation. His rival insulted him, lowballed him, pushed every button available, all designed to make the merchant crack, concede, capitulate. But the merchant just sat there, quiet, still, eyes soft but present. When the rival made his worst offer, Certain he'd won, the merchant stood up, said simply, "Keep it," and walked toward the door. The rival panicked. He chased him. He agreed to every original term. The merchant never raised his voice. He never argued. He won entirely through the controlled withdrawal of his reaction. That is the art. You are not passive, you are hunting. You observe every micro-expression, every word chosen under pressure, every tell that reveals your opponent's real position. While they exhaust themselves performing, you are learning everything you need. The world doesn't belong to the loudest person. It belongs to the calmest. Law 2. Observe, don't react. Your stillness is your strategy. Law 3. Motion beats perfection. Every time the most dangerous prison in existence has no walls, no guards, and no locks. It's built entirely from the phrase, "I'm not ready yet." There is a specific kind of suffering that belongs to intelligent people. It comes not from failure, but from the endless, exhausting cycle of almost. Almost starting, almost deciding, almost beginning. The project that exists entirely in your head for 3 years. The email you've written and deleted 11 times. The conversation you've prepared for so long that by the time you're ready to have it, the moment has already passed. Machiavelli wrote, "A bad plan executed is stronger than 1,000 perfect plans imprisoned in the mind." He wasn't celebrating recklessness. He was identifying something most people never confront. The pursuit of perfect conditions is almost always a disguise for fear. You're not waiting for the right moment. You're waiting to feel safe. And that feeling never comes. Because safety is not a prerequisite for action. It's a reward for it. Think of a soldier who doesn't know the enemy's exact position, the precise weather conditions, the full count of opposing forces, but still rises before dawn and sharpens his blade. He understands something the planner never will. Knowledge follows action. Experience doesn't prepare you for the step forward. The step forward is what creates the experience. Every second you spend perfecting the approach is a second someone less qualified but more decisive is building the thing you've only been designing in your mind. The overthinker believes hesitation is intelligence, but Machiavelli would tell you plainly, it's just fear with better vocabulary. Make the move, send it, say it, start it. Not because you're certain, but because certainty is a myth, and the people reshaping the world have always known that. Law 3. Act. The world rewards motion, not deliberation. Law 4. Your presence is your power. There is a subtle way to lose everything without anyone taking it from you. You simply stop showing up. Not physically. You're there. Your body is in the chair, at the table, in the room. But your mind is 3 conversations behind, 2 anxieties ahead, and nowhere near the moment you're actually standing in. This is the quiet epidemic of modern life. People live in split screen. One half of their attention on what's happening, the other half on what happened, what might happen, what someone said last Tuesday, what they should have said back. And they wonder why they feel hollow, why their conversations feel like performances, why they always seem to be chasing something they can't quite name. Machiavelli called this the leakage of power. Every time your attention splinters, you lose something. Not dramatically, not all at once, bit by bit, moment by moment, until you look up one day and realize you have been present for almost none of your own life. Now watch someone who is present, truly, fully, uncomplicatedly there. Their eye contact doesn't flinch. Their words don't rush. Their body is not braced against the moment. It inhabits it, and you feel it. The room feels it. There is a gravitational quality to real presence that no performance can replicate. A veteran soldier once said, "The ones who survive the battle are not the fastest or the strongest. They're the ones who breathe steadily when everyone else is panicking." This is as true in a meeting room as it is on a battlefield. The scattered person reacts to every fluctuation. The present one controls the tempo, and the person who controls the tempo controls the outcome. Presence is not a personality trait, it is a practice. It is the daily, deliberate choice to be here, in this conversation, at this table, in this moment, rather than somewhere inside the fog of your own narration. When you are fully present, manipulation cannot find a foothold. Insults pass through you. Pressure doesn't accumulate. You see clearly what distracted people miss entirely. The hesitation in someone's eye, the contradiction in their sentence, the gap between what they're saying and what they actually mean. Law 4. Be present. Where your attention goes, your power follows. Law 5. Stop rehearsing a disaster that will never arrive. There is a particular form of self-sabotage, so common, so normalized, that most people never even recognize it as sabotage at all. They call it preparation. Machiavelli called it slow self-destruction. You know the ritual. Before something important, a presentation, a difficult conversation, a first encounter, your mind begins its rehearsal. You run the scenario, then you run the worst version of the scenario. Then you run every possible variation of the worst version. You prepare responses for attacks that will never come. You steel yourself against rejections that will never arrive. You practice appearing calm for a disaster your own imagination invented. And then the moment comes, and it's fine, normal, human, nothing like the catastrophe you spent 3 sleepless nights preparing for. The cruel irony is this: the more vividly you rehearse failure, the more you train your nervous system to expect it. You aren't building confidence through that process. You are conditioning yourself to flinch. Real strength is not practiced in front of a mirror. It is forged in real situations with real stakes and real consequences. Every time you step into an actual moment, uncertain, imperfect, alive, you build something that no amount of mental rehearsal can manufacture. The person who rehearses constantly is trying to control the uncontrollable. They want a guarantee before they commit, but life offers no such deal. The only guarantee available is this: if you spend your existence preparing to live rather than living, you will reach the end of it having done neither. Stop polishing the perfect answer to a question no one will ask you. Stop building armor against attacks that will never land. Step into the room as you are, unfinished, uncertain, and real. Because the world does not need another flawless performance. It needs your actual presence, raw, unscripted, undeniable. Law 5. Live. The life you're rehearsing is already happening without you. Law 6. The person who rules themselves rules everything. And now we arrive at the one that contains all the others. Tranquility. Not the soft kind you find on a quiet Sunday, the hard kind. The kind forged inside chaos, maintained under pressure, and wielded like a weapon when everything around you is burning. Machiavelli watched kings lose their thrones, not to rival armies, but to their own lack of composure. Men with vast resources, loyal soldiers, and strategic advantages who collapsed the moment pressure mounted internally, because no fortress of stone protects a man whose mind has already surrendered. If you cannot rule yourself, he wrote, you will be ruled by everything else. Think about what that means in practice. The moment you react from anger, the person who provoked you has just commandeered your behavior. The moment you collapse under someone's disapproval, their opinion has become your master. The moment panic overrides your judgment, circumstances, not you, are directing your life. The untouchable person is not someone without fear. They have fear. They simply refuse to let it make their decisions. There is a story of a king who was betrayed by members of his own court. Everyone expected fury, expected public punishment, shouting, spectacle. Instead, the king went quiet. For 3 days, he said almost nothing. He smiled when addressed. He moved through his palace with the same unhurried certainty as always. Those 3 days of silence were the most terrifying thing his court had ever witnessed, because they couldn't read him. They couldn't predict him. They couldn't prepare a defense against a threat they couldn't see. By the end of the week, the traitors were removed, not through rage, but through the cold, surgical calm of a man who had absolute control over his own response. That is the final law. Not a tactic, a way of being. When you stop needing to win every argument, you become harder to provoke. When you stop seeking external validation, you become impossible to manipulate. When you stop fearing silence, you become the most powerful person in any room, because you are the only one not performing for anyone. Water doesn't force its way through stone. It finds the cracks, moves steadily, and eventually reshapes the entire landscape. That is the quality of a truly tranquil mind. It doesn't push against the world. It outlasts it. You don't need to announce your strength. The quiet, settled certainty of someone who has mastered themselves announces it for you. Before you say a word, before you make a move. Law 6. Master your inner world. That is the only kingdom worth ruling. Law 7. Never reveal the full depth of your well. Most people talk too much, not because they're dishonest, because they're hungry. Hungry for approval, for validation, for the relief of being understood. So they give everything away, their plans, their fears, their ambitions, offered freely to anyone willing to listen. Machiavelli saw this as one of the most costly mistakes a person could make. The lion does not explain why he is dangerous. He simply is, and the forest adjusts around him. Information is not just communication, it is currency, and most people spend it recklessly, leaving themselves with nothing in reserve. Think about how this plays out. You land an opportunity and immediately tell everyone, before it's confirmed, before it's real. The congratulations pour in, the excitement peaks, and then the energy dissolves. The announcement replaces the achievement, the telling replaces the doing. And those who wish you less well, and they exist in every circle, now have a map of exactly where you're going and time to position themselves accordingly. The most powerful people in any room are never the ones who speak the most. They are the ones you can never fully read. They listen more than they talk. They ask but rarely volunteer. And that unreadability creates a quiet, persistent unease in others that works entirely in their favor. So build in silence. Let your results speak at full volume while your process stays hidden. Share your finished work, not your half-formed drafts. Execute the decision before you explain it. Mystery is not deception. It is simply the understanding that you are under no obligation to make yourself fully legible to a world that hasn't earned that knowledge. The river that runs deep makes no noise. Only shallow water rushes loudly over every stone. Be the deep river. Law 7. Guard your depth. What the world cannot read, it cannot control. You've just walked through 7 laws that have nothing to do with manipulation and everything to do with mastery. Recognize, don't surrender to illusions your mind manufactures at midnight. Observe. Let your stillness become the most unnerving thing in the room. Act, because the world was not built by those who waited to feel ready. Be present, because your attention is your most valuable and most stolen resource. Live, because the life you keep rehearsing is running out of time. Master yourself, because the person who doesn't need to prove their power has already claimed it. Guard your depth, because what cannot be read cannot be controlled. From this moment, carry this with you, not as a philosophy to admire from a distance, as a practice, a daily, unglamorous, sometimes uncomfortable practice of choosing response over reaction, motion over hesitation, presence over performance, and stillness over noise. The world doesn't shift for the loudest voice in the room. It shifts for the one that doesn't need to raise their voice at all. That is the Machiavellian mind. Not cold, not cruel, just awake. And once you are awake, truly awake, you stop chasing power, you become it.